afternoon. So we're group 4. I'm Iana.
I'm Ivana.
So today we're going to talk about the misogynistic undertone in the novel Lucky Jean. So first, Kingsley Amis is praised for his witty and humorous novel Lucky Jean, which satirizes the absurdities of academic life and post-war Britain. However, alongside its comedic elements, his portrayal of women in the novel seems to be unexplored. While Amis faced more direct criticism for his later works from the 1970s, Lucky Jean, published in 1954, already reflects negative attitudes toward women. Britannica notes that the term misogyny became widely known in the 1970s by second-wave feminists. This suggests that the lack of awareness about the term misogyny and the deeper understanding of the word during the time Lucky Jean was written may have caused some readers to overlook the novel's problematic treatment of women. By looking at the novel's female characters and the way they are treated or made fun of shows attitudes that reflect misogyny. Therefore, this paper argues that Amy's portrayal of female characters, Margaret and Christine, through their objectification, reliance on stereotypes, and lack of depth, reflects his misogynistic attitude. Objectifying Margaret and Christine. Amis often described women in Lucky Jean by focusing on their looks, turning them into objects for men to judge. This objectification is evident from the start of the novel when Jim reflects on his upcoming meeting with a small, thin, bespectacled with bright makeup Margaret. He wonders, what will she be wearing this evening? Dixon's focus on her appearance highlights how women are often judged based on looks, suggesting that their value is seen in how they present themselves to him. By focusing on her physical appearance, Jim treats Margaret as an object to be looked at and judged. This objectification continues even when Dixon asks about Margaret's suicide attempt. Despite the sensitivity of the topic, Jim remains indifferent to Margaret's emotional distress, instead focusing on her physical appearance. First, noting how thin the flesh was over her jawbone, and after a few exchanges, again fixating on the prominent tendons of her neck. The repeated emphasis on Margaret's physical appearance during the conversation suggests that the narrative is more focused on her body than the substance of her words. These examples show that the narrative encouraging viewing Margaret's appearance as an object to be analyzed, rather than connecting with her as a person. Christine, like Margaret, is objectified despite being portrayed as more beautiful. When Dixon first sees her, he fixates on every detail of her appearance, describing the combination of fair hair, straight and cut short, with brown eyes and no lipstick, the strict set of the mouth and square shoulders, the large breasts and narrow waist, the premeditated simplicity of the wine-colored corduroy skirt and the unornamented white linen blouse. This obsessive focus reduces her to a collection of physical attributes, suggesting that Dixon views her not as a person, but as an object to be examined. Similarly, when Carol asks Bertrand about his plans with Christine, he responds, "Christine, now there's a grand girl for you," reducing her to an object of admiration. His language emphasizes her physical appeal, treating her as a prize rather than a person with intellectual or personal qualities. This characterization objectifies her, diminishing her complexity and reducing her to a main attractive woman for men to admire. Later in the novel, Dixon compares Margaret and Christine, determining their luck based solely on their appearances, calling Margaret unlucky for being sexually unattractive and Christine lucky because of her face and figure. This further reinforces the idea that a woman's value is defined by her physical attractiveness, reducing both women to objects of appearance rather than recognizing their intellect, talent, and character. Through this portrayal, Amis critiques a broader societal tendency to judge women superficially, diminishing their complexity and abilities.
Reduction on stereotypes. A second primary form of misogyny in Lucky Jim is the portrayal of Margaret and Christine as stereotypical bad and good women. Margaret is depicted as hysterical and manipulative, with Jim seeing her as a burden due to her emotional outbursts. For instance, when Jim is waiting for Professor Welch and remembers he has to meet Margaret later, he feels apprehension lunging at his stomach, suggesting that their interactions cause him distress. This quickly makes readers question Margaret, as Jim anticipates their interaction will end with her horrifying confessions. In addition, Margaret's reaction to Jim for choosing Christine further highlights her manipulative nature. Jim described her as both actress and scriptwriter, meaning that she knows how to control him with her actions and words, emphasizing her attempt to dominate the situation. Amis intensifies this portrayal with exaggerated imagery such as a steady repeated low-pitched moan and writhing while screaming a dozen times. These vivid descriptions depict her as excessively dramatic and emotional, reinforcing the stereotype of Margaret as a manipulative person who uses her feelings to gain sympathy. Throughout the novel, Margaret is consistently shown in a negative light, making it difficult for readers to empathize with her. Ram and Selden support this interpretation, noting that the last thing Amos wants is for the reader to sympathize with Margaret. This suggests that Amos purposely frames Margaret's emotional outbursts as manipulation, encouraging readers to dislike her and reinforcing the novel's misogynistic undertones. On the other hand, Christine is portrayed as the stereotypically idolized, perfect woman, serving as a contrast to Margaret. While Margaret is depicted as desperate and manipulative, Christine embodies the image of the ideal woman. For example, when Dixon mistakes Christine for his ex-girlfriend, Sonia Lusmer, it puts Christine in an awkward position. Despite the potential embarrassment, Christine handles the situation with grace and poise, saying, "Don't worry about it, Mr. Dixon. It was only a silly little misunderstanding. I can't quite see how it happened." This moment emphasizes Christine as the perfect girl, a 1950s ideal who remains composed, self-assured, and supportive even when faced with an uncomfortable social situation. Her ability to smooth over the awkwardness without displaying frustration or embarrassment reflects the stereotypical expectations of women at the time. This portrayal of Christine aligns with a misogynistic view that women are expected to be perfect, passive, and accommodating to men's needs, even at the cost of their own emotions or discomfort. The female characters in the novel lack the depth and emotional complexity the male characters. Margaret, a senior lecturer, is rarely shown engaged in her academic work, and when her intellectual abilities are mentioned, the focus quickly shifts to her emotional instability. For example, when Margaret mentions an acknowledgement Jim didn't read, the focus quickly shifts to her past suicide attempt on the morning before the evening when Margaret had tried to kill herself with sleeping pills. This shift from her academic role to her instability distances the reader from her character. Despite her respected position, Margaret is portrayed as manipulative and hysterical, with little explanation for her actions. After her manipulation is discussed by Catchpole and Jim, she fades from the narrative, and Dixon's final thought, "I have nothing more to do with Margaret," marks the end of her presence. Amy's purposely makes her an underdeveloped character, avoiding creating an emotional connection between the readers and Margaret. Christine, unlike Margaret, is portrayed as the stereotypical perfect woman, but she is defined mainly by her relationships with men, such as Bertrand and Jim, and her role as Gore Urquhart's niece, rather than by her own personal death. For example, when she discusses attending the summer ball so Bertrand can meet his uncle,
Mr. Gore Urquhart, Christine says, well, I could persuade him to come if Bertrand and I were going. And then Bertrand and he could get to know each other, focusing entirely on Bertrand and showing no independent goals. Amos presents her as lacking personal ambitions, existing only to serve the men around her. Later, Dixon comments, it was nasty to think that deciding factors would be the strength and nature of Bertrand's ambitions, sexual and financial social. Reinforcing that Christine attends the ball to support Bertrand's goals. At the ball, Jim notes, Christine must be functioning merely as Gore Urquhart's niece, further emphasizing her lack of individuality. Unlike Jim, who grows intellectually and personally, Christine remains static, always supporting others. Even at the end of the novel, she clings to Jim, showing that while she has left Bertrand, she still depends on someone else for support. Through the portrayal of women in Lucky Jim, Kingsley Amis reveals misogynistic attitudes in how he presents the two main female characters, Christine and Margaret. He reduces them to mere objects of desire or frustration, rather than fully developed individuals with their own independence. Instead of giving them depth, Amis portrays them as one-dimensional, defined only by their relationship with men. Kingsley Amis presents them through outdated stereotypes, showing them as either manipulative or submissive, defined only by their relationship with men. Therefore, despite the humor and satire that characterize Lucky Jim, Kingsley Amis' treatment of female characters shows the underlying misogyny in the novel. Thank you.
I'm Chloe from Brit. I was wondering, I actually really like the topic of the paper, but I was wondering with how Kingsley kind of portrays all the characters in a very shallow way apart from Dixon. Like, only Dixon's the more like well flashed out character being the protagonist of the story. So what makes the girls have more of a misogynistic tinge rather than being used as a plot device like the rest of the characters, like compared to like Welch or what's the guy's name? Bertrand.
Yeah. Because we thought that, actually at first we were also, when we first read the novel, we were also thinking, isn't just like all of them, like Amis mocks all of the characters and not just the females. But then when we read it the second time, we were like, at least we saw like the men, we saw that they have, even though Bertrand is kind of, they were like mocking Bertrand, but at the same time, sometimes they make us see that he has his own like personal goals, because he's doing this certain example. He's doing like all those negative things to Jim because he wants to be Urquhart's secretary. So he has his personal goal. Unlike Margaret, I never saw like any of her like intentions or the reason behind that emotional or any like manipulation and stuff. And so we thought it was kind of unfair to women to portray that way.
Okay, I'm Tarashi in group 2. Your presentation is pretty good, and I have a small question. In the part 3, you think the author portrayed Margaret and Christine as stereotypical bad and good women. Margaret is depicted as hysterical and manipulative, with Jean seeing her as a burden due to her emotional outbursts. So what kind of person do you think Margaret is? Does she have any merit? Have some advantage like this? Yeah.
Advantage.
Does she have
Yeah.
advantage for being manipulative?
So what kind of the person do you think the Margaret is?
What kind of person?
I don't know.
Aside from being manipulative?
only bad or only good women, but the Margaret is also depicted as a hysterical a character. Yeah. So, what's your think about the Margaret?
What do you think about?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Because if you are like portraying someone like hysterical and manipulative nature, then basically he's kind of in the bad side, right? So yeah. So yeah, we thought that was kind of she's in a bad Is that right? I'm sorry. I'm not sure. I didn't get it. Like, what do you think of Margaret? Like, is he? Yeah, obviously she's in the bad side because she's manipulative and hysterical as well. And even at the end of the novel, she's just gone. We didn't see any reason. That's why we thought that we didn't see any good side of hers.
Oh, okay, so you don't think she's a good girl? She's
No.
bad. Yeah,
No.
she's bad.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Yana from Group 3. Do you think that the relationship between Jim and Christine is unfair?
Yeah, it's not genuine. We thought that it wasn't. We thought that it wasn't genuine. We thought that it wasn't genuine because in the first place, like he was attracted at her like physical and like outer physical attributes, like physical attributes, and even we thought that he's just using Kristen because he wants to like go up the ladder, like. Yeah, because Kristen is like in the social, like
Highs.
yes, the social status, and then we were like, oh, maybe he's just using her to, but it's not really. That's what it. Personal.
You said that Kristen is objectified despite being portrayed as more beautiful than Dixon plus Susan. And I thought, because it is fair to say that he's fell in love with her appearance because, and he thought he's beautiful, but she's beautiful. So I think it is just common things to see. Like you said, there's this kind of how to say like set reduce her some like set existence with just physical appearance. And yeah.
Actually, yeah, we have a point. Like at first, it could be like he was attractive at first, and then he fell in love like later in the story. But then if you would see like his comments, they were like he was telling how lucky Bertrand was because of having that physically beautiful and attractive women, which kind of feels off to me because I felt like, oh, so like really like physical attributes is just the only thing that matters to you. So I don't know, it's just a personal opinion.
So here's one more from Group 1. The book is called Lucky Jim, and why do you think the author called Jim is lucky? And what if Jim didn't have a happy ending? Do you think he's still lucky or not?
No, definitely not. Because we can only see like his luck at the end of the novel when he got all those like being work hard secretary and stuff. But other than that, I don't think he's lucky. So
Do you think he's lucky because of he got a happy ending?
yeah, because basically, personally, I feel like he did not deserve. I mean, you could provide, yeah, you could argue, but personally, he did not deserve to get that. I thought that it's better if he didn't get that job. So.
emotional complexity of the male characters. So, do you think Christine's perfection and obedience reflect a loss of awareness of her own words?
Sorry?
Do you think Christine's obedience reflects her loss of awareness of her own words, own word value?
Yeah, I think so, because basically he's just doing like everything and trying to please the men around him and not really identifying or telling us what she really wants in the first place. So I think it's, yeah, I think it's that. It's kind of, I think it reflects, yeah,
Okay. Okay, all right, one more. Oh, you were just putting up your hands. All right, good job, Brit.